Hello, everybody. Welcome to Inspiring Spaces for Infants and Toddlers. I'm your host and presenter today. I'm Pam Schaffner, working at the PA Key as a Program Quality Assessor. Our objectives today are basically three things. We're going to create infant and toddler spaces that promote safety. That's of the utmost importance, is safety. We also have to make sure our classrooms are set up to encourage children to explore and learn about their world using their five senses. And then those spaces really should promote a sense of warmth, positive interactions, a loving climate, and so forth. So three things we need in inspiring infant and toddler spaces are safety, exploration, and warmth. Many of you are familiar with the ITERS-R rating scale, and this rating scale does measure the quality in infant and toddler spaces. And I decided to kind of highlight some of the things from the ITERS-R about spaces for infants and toddlers, kind of setting the stage. What is needed in an infant and toddler classroom before we can really even think about making those spaces inspiring. So one of the things that you're going to see in the infant-toddler environment rating scale is that spaces are safe and easy to clean. This is really important because children cannot be around chemicals and choking hazards and things like that. Their environment is not easily explorable if there's lots of safety issues in the classroom. And we also want to make sure our classrooms set up so routine care areas are convenient and easily supervised. This makes sense that we have a diapering area separate from an eating area, and that there's spaces set up for children to play, and that the classroom is easy to supervise. We want children to be able to move about the space, to use the entire classroom, and therefore that space needs to be easily seen from all vantage points. And we also need space in infant and toddler classrooms where we can see individualized care, self-help, and child-sized furniture present in the space to really make it a space that a child can look at and say, this is my classroom, this is my space. You know, this space is set up just for me. We want to make sure that there's low tables, low shelves, that children can really have a sense of exploration and learning by moving about the space independently as much as possible. Some other things about setting up the classroom for infants and toddlers as the ITERS or Infant Toddler Environment Rating Scale measures is that they actually have a cozy area. A cozy area is a space where they can retreat from the typical hardness of a classroom and really snuggle in with a book or a teacher and really have a space that provides that comfort feeling. Also spaces for active and quiet play and messy play accessible. So infants really need three different areas set up in their classroom: a quiet area, a noisy area, or an active area, and then a third area of your liking. Toddlers also need a couple different areas. They need an active area where they can move about and climb, things like that. A quiet area, which might be your cozy space where you put books and things like that. And also a messy area because they need opportunities for art, maybe some water play, things like that. There's also an expectation in the toddler room to have an area for block play if you have children over 12 months in the classroom. To experience the classroom as an infant or toddler, and you really want to know what they experience in their room, try lying on your back on the floor and look around. Then walk around the classroom on your knees. Is there anything interesting to see or do? Do you see an empty blank wall when you look up? Or a blank ceiling, perhaps? Are all the decorations and pictures in the classroom too high on the wall to see from your knees? We always want walls to be decorated with children's artwork and interesting things for them to see. And if putting that stuff up on the walls gives you anxiety because children tend to rip things down from the walls and move things around, consider using laminated pictures, a Velcro board, magnets on cookie sheets that are affixed to the wall, anything that encourages display where it's actually permissible for children to take things down and move them around and to rearrange images rather than just tearing them up. So those are some things that the ITERS-R recommends. So let's take what we talked about from the ITERS and the things that are basic to a classroom and really think how we can beef up those areas and really get to the point where our spaces are inspiring and not just meeting basic needs of children. So the ITERS-R is used to measure what's in a quality infant and toddler classroom. It measures room arrangement, safety, toy organization, the number of toys and materials in the classroom. But let's look at how we can enhance our classrooms to make children really feel a sense of inspiration and wonder at the world around them. I often find it fun to try to think like a child experiencing something new for the very first time. Especially infants and toddlers. They are huge consumers of all that is around them, wondering things like, what is this? What can I do with that? What will happen if I do this? The world is really a place to explore. And to prove that, I want you to think back into your childhood and really think about the answer to this question. Very important. Who taught you that bathtubs are not food? That you cannot eat a bathtub? Do you remember who taught you that? Or how old you were when you learned that? You probably don't, and that's okay. You were very young. But if you really think about it, I doubt your parent or teacher in childcare ever sat you down and said, bathtubs are not for eating. Most learning that happens in the infant and toddler years and in early childhood, for that matter, happen through children experiencing things and learning things on their own, things that aren't even ever taught to them. They just learn them through experience. So they probably learned at some point, they did learn at some point, I don't know anybody out there eating bathtubs, but they learned that bathtubs are not food. And I doubt it was through anyone explaining to them, don't eat that, that's not food. But just through the experience of being around everyday objects and exploring them with their senses. I believe many of you have seen the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. If you go to the YouTube channel and type in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and type in the scene in the garden, this little video will pop up for you to watch. And I think you'll probably remember it if you've seen this movie, and if not, go ahead and watch the clip. But in this section of the movie, Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder here, he takes the children and their parents into a new space, a space that's set up to look like a garden. There's mushrooms and trees and a river and all kinds of things in this space. And what this clip really reminds me of is how little children explore the world around them for the very first time. That everything they're experiencing is brand new. You know, they're new and into the world. They're just outside the womb and they don't know, like I said, that bathtubs aren't food unless they go ahead and experience them. But in this clip, the parents especially have to challenge their ideas in their head that you don't eat trees or grass or plants or drink out of rivers, especially ones that look as dirty as the one in this movie. It was made of chocolate. But the parents and the children run around very quickly consuming everything in this garden scene because everything is edible, from the top of the mushrooms being frosting to things falling out of the trees that the children and adults could eat. They went around hurrying and experiencing things. And I would argue they weren't running around to experience these things because they were extremely hungry. They were experiencing them from a mindset of curiosity. What is this? What is this going to taste like? It's the same thing that toddlers do. They run around and pick up everything, put everything in their mouth, dump everything, smell everything, touch everything, push everything, all in an effort to see what is this and what can it do and how does it sound and how does it smell and how does it taste. Very much like the scene of this Willy Wonka video here. And one thing that was really neat about the end of this little video is the very next scene. There's a little boy who starts drinking out of the chocolate river and he gets scolded because he's not supposed to do it. Everything else in this environment was, please touch me, please taste me, please move about at will. It was yes, 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 try this, yes, try that. It was an environment of permission. The children and adults running around were allowed to explore this entire room, except the chocolate river. The one little boy got in trouble because he contaminated the river through drinking it. They didn't worry about contamination of anything else, but they did this river. Young children need to be in a classroom where they're encouraged to explore. They're encouraged to use their 5 senses to see what is around them, to learn all about their world. And very few, if no, examples are observed of children being told no, they can't do something in a classroom. It really should be set up to encourage that exploration in a very safe kind of way, so that children are almost always told yes. Now this slide looks pretty boring, doesn't it? It's a blank canvas. If you moved into a new home and it was empty, aside from some neutral carpet or linoleum or perhaps just wood floors and white walls, what would you add to make this space uniquely your style? What color would you paint the walls? What items might you add to your living room or the nursery you were decorating for your expected new baby? Does the color of the room affect your mood? Think about the things that you have in your own home to make it uniquely yours. When someone walks into your room or into your infant toddler classroom, are they seeing elements that are inspirational, that are soft, that are welcoming, that are unique? A toddler and an infant classroom shouldn't be that much different from the things and the personal touches you put on your own homes. Especially, as parents come in and they're observing or they're taking a tour of your facility, they want to see those classrooms look like a warm, loving place for their child to be. Yes, it needs to be easy to clean. Yes, it needs to be safe, but it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be sterile and that there's no texture or softness in the space or decorations that really speak to making it a personalized space and a warm and comfortable space. So think about things that are of texture that you include in your home and maybe can include in your classroom. Would you vary the textures of items in your living room or bedroom? And what about in the toddler classroom or the infant classroom? What colors would you choose? Color has meaning. There's a link here on the slide that talks about what colors on the walls that you choose for paint and how they impact a child's mood or an adult's mood. So here are just some thoughts about color. If you paint walls red, this can help students be more alert, and it also may increase creativity and excitement. So that's an option for red. Orange can also increase alertness in students. Yellow may help increase attention and creativity, and it helps learners to think more positive thoughts. So yellow really is cheerful. We think about going out in the sunshine and feeling that the sun on our face at the end of a very cold and dark winter. Green can help students feel calmer and more peaceful. Blue can help calm down students. It can also lower temperatures and suppress appetites. I guess I need that for my kitchen. Purple can help students feel calmer and more peaceful. Brown may help students feel safe and relaxed. And it can also help students stay alert and prevent them from feeling fatigued. So brown can keep them from feeling tired. And off-white can help students focus on a task, and it can also lead to more positive thoughts. I want you to think about the colors that you have painted in your own home and contrast that to the colors on the walls in the childcare space that you may have. How the room is decorated can really affect mood in terms of color, placement of furniture, and just the general setup of that classroom. To be an inspiring space, think about the color choices that you make and put on the walls in the classroom. You know, the bold, bright primary colors often don't convey a feeling of warmth and comfort like your beiges and light blues and things do that you might choose for your own home. So just something to think about as you remodel, that color really matters, and make sure you add personal touches to the classroom to really make them your own, so that children feel a sense of belonging there. What do you notice here about color? Does this environment feel warm and inviting? Is this environment overstimulating? Does a calming white color make you nervous because the children are messy at young ages? Do you notice how many things are here for children to explore? Sometimes less is more. We know children create novelty because they're consumers of the environments around them and the materials around them. But rotating toys in and out of the classroom may prove to be more meaningful for their experience and their learning than having too much at all times. So really thinking about the materials we choose to put in the classroom. We want variety because they are those consumers and they are looking with their senses to learn about themselves and about the world around them. We want to make sure we have duplicates of things because children, especially age 1 and 2, are often arguing over toys and haven't learned to share yet. But we want to make sure that we're not adding way too much that just causes some chaos in the classroom and overstimulation. We want to make sure that we're putting there has a purpose and that it elicits feelings of inspiration and a desire to learn. How we organize our toys and materials in a classroom can also elicit feelings of inspiration and comfort. When you look at these two images, what does it make you feel? Now, in order for the children to know what we'd be storing in those baskets, we'd have to keep the lids off of them so that the kids know where things go and what's inside of things. But one is calm and comforting, and one can be considered overstimulating. All those toys stored in one place, playing with dramatic play food in the same space where they're playing with balls, and it looks like a bowling game and some other building toys. It might be overstimulating to have all those toys in one place and organized like that. I mean, they are organized by type, which is nice, but I wouldn't say it's inspirational. Once the walls are painted and the toy storage is chosen, whether you use bins or baskets, we can add additional items to promote inspiration and exploration. Adding things to the walls such as fabric, family photos. How about family photos in child-safe frames without glass? And what that feels like versus just sticking them up with tape. Adding activities to stimulate the senses to the environment. Think about how the addition of this rug adds texture to the room for children to explore. They're crawling around. They can feel smooth with the wood planks and a feeling of roughness, or perhaps that carpet is soft, feeling those different textures. The picture on the right is a texture activity put up on the wall. So actually using the wall space for activities for places of exploration. This little board here has things for the children to move, to touch, to see. Each of those squares that you see there is a different fabric. You might see it looks like that wood is there. You might find something rough or smooth. Things for the children to touch and explore. What does this taste like? What does this smell like? What does this feel like? All of those questions go through a brain, and they don't need a teacher to say, this is soft. Although that helps, it's good for you to do those types of interactions. But they can learn about these things on their own, even without you standing right there as consumers of the world around them. What do you notice in this picture regarding color and texture? Is this an inspiring space to you? Do you consider it overstimulating? What do you notice about the lighting in this space? Give me your thoughts and ideas on what you think about this space. The use of lighting can enhance different experiences for children. Using some mud or sand on a light table with the lights on and then the lights off are two different experiences. So what do you think of the 5 senses are encouraged with this activity? What senses are they using, and what is their mind saying to them about this activity? What do you think this little one is thinking as she explores this activity that the teachers set out for her to do? And is it inspiring? Does it inspire her sense of wonder and wanting to learn? Think about which of the 5 senses is engaged when children explore nature. Is there a way to hit all 5 of them? What are the possibilities in these 2 images? For seeing, for hearing, for smelling, for touching, and for tasting. We don't have any honey with the little butterflies and the little bees in the one picture, but the little one on the right probably will take an opportunity to taste that snow. And oh, what a sense of wonder that is, feeling the coldness of something that he can put in his hands and move around. Can natural elements be brought inside to the infant and toddler classrooms? Including natural materials in the classroom is one way to help children explore the real world that exists outside the 4 walls of your classroom. You know, if parents drop them off during the winter and it's dark when they arrive and it's already dark when they leave, think about all the opportunities that they might miss in their outside environment as far as exploring goes. It's important that these materials are brought into the classroom if and when possible. Now, you do have to make sure that they're safe, they're not choking hazards, and then there are ways to bring things into the classroom to make them safe if they are small, such as putting them inside clear plastic bottles and gluing on those lids where children can shake them and see them. Maybe it's flowers inside of one of those bottles and you poke little holes so the children can still smell them, but yet you have no fear they will not eat those flowers. Think about other ways you can add things into the classroom so that children are using their senses and their sense of wonder and allowing them to experience the outdoors, even on those days that you can't get outside. Some things that you might consider are hanging tree limbs up high in the classroom for viewing, allowing them to touch tree bark, leaves, things like that with supervision, encouraging children to try different foods and talking about them, and bringing things into the classroom that children will be encouraged to smell and use with supervision. Speaking of nature, check to make sure your classroom isn't all pretend play images of nature. Do all the books have talking animals or bright colors? A purple dinosaur, a pink panda? These things aren't real. You have to make sure that you have pictures of real nature in the classroom. What a real tiger looks like, what a real flower looks like, what a real bumblebee looks like. Now you can see here this little boy's playing with Duplos that came from the inside environment that were brought outdoors. You know, it's also a good idea to bring the inside world out for a child. Varying their experience by having activities both indoors and outdoors will broaden a child's understanding that there is a world that exists outside of their homes and of their classroom. They can take these colorful Duplo blocks and use them with natural objects. Fill them with grass, fill them with water, fill them with dirt, build little things and put worms inside. Really have an opportunity to take the outdoor environment and the indoor environment materials and mesh them together for a whole new inspiring experience. While it can be very frustrating, children explore most with their mouths when they are young. This is their primary sense of the 5. Their first inclination is to taste things. This happens with their very first meal after birth. How do we balance a child's need to do this, to put things in their mouth, with keeping things clean and sanitary? You know, in the midst of the pandemic with COVID, and we thought we really need to make sure that we're keeping things clean and sanitary and not sharing germs between children. And we made sure that we kept all the toys sanitized very, very well to prevent spread of illness. All at the same time, children need to explore with their mouths in order to learn at a young age. So here are two options of ways to do things, and there's one way that's better than the other. So should we, A, tell children they should not put toys in their mouths and take them from them to put them in a dirty toy bin? Or should we, B, watch the child who is mouthing a toy closely, and when they put that item down, pick it up and put it in a dirty toy bin? The answer is B. We want to encourage them to mouth things and learn with their senses. And since that sense of taste is so strong in infancy, we can't deny them the opportunity to explore that way. But we can prevent another child from picking up the germs from that child by watching closely and taking those mouthed toys to be cleaned after the child has finished using them. Once a child is preschool aged, they'll be growing out of this phase of putting everything in their mouths. So at that age, you can remind them not to put things in their mouth, that pretend forks are just for pretend, and pretend pizza is just for pretend. But infants and toddlers actually need to explore with their mouths in order to learn about the world. Different textures to toys and even providing individualized chew toys can promote children to get the most of this stage of development. We want to make sure we encourage the behavior and that we are really cognizant of keeping things sanitary after that experience is finished for the child. Don't forget to allow exploration through the use of the body. Children who are inspired to explore will move from things to things, sometimes very rapidly. I just took a PD session where they were making the analogy that little toddlers are similar to bumblebees flying from flower to flower to gather pollen. Young children will fly from, not fly, but run or walk or crawl from thing to thing to thing in order to gather not pollen, but little tidbits of knowledge. Children who are inspired are going to move very quickly, just like in the Willy Wonka video. They move very quickly to explore that room, that space. Now, the ITERS-R measures how much time children can freely move and explore by expecting children to have free play for much of the day. That means anytime a child's awake, they are encouraged to explore that world, that classroom of yours that you've set up in an inspirational type of way. Restricting the movement of children by requiring them to pay attention to what you want them to do at a particular moment may prove frustrating for both you and the child. Instead, offering many play materials and activities, planned and unplanned, but offering them rather than requiring them, simultaneously will allow children the freedom to explore how they wish and to take in as much information as they desire and can process from moment to moment and hour to hour within their day. We often have sterile environments. They're all plastic, they're lacking in dimension or texture. We see this a lot in classrooms, not so much in the home, in your personal residence, but in classrooms. The plastic, the sterileness, we want to make sure that we are providing dimension for children. We want to make sure that there is opportunity to make a mess. We don't want to stifle their inspiration. Making mud pies is part of childhood. So is painting our hands or our face or our feet. As children explore, ask yourself, is this experience really unsafe, or is it just messy and inconvenient for the adult? As children explore, we need to ask ourselves if the mess they are making is just inconvenient for us and time-consuming versus a valid opportunity and experience for them. To really promote learning and brain development, we need to offer children experiences beyond the sterile. They need to taste, to smell, to touch, to see, and to hear. And they need ample time to move around and consume the experiences we offer them as quickly as they like and as much as they like. Do you ever wonder why a baby or a toddler will crawl or walk away from you, but constantly look back at you? Or why an infant who is walking with you will stretch out to reach something, but still not let go of that hand of yours? It is because children only learn about their world with teachers and parents and caregivers who they can form trusting and loving bonds with. They need to know that it's safe to explore, that they can move off and explore, and if something doesn't smell right, taste right, feel right, sound right, or something is scary, that they can retreat right back to you, their safe spot. A child might look to you lovingly and ask, with his eyes, "Can I touch this? Will you get that for me?" In a nonverbal way, this child here is pointing, "Will you get that for me?" Or "What's that over there?" Maybe the child might say to you nonverbally, "This tastes yucky. Please get it out of my mouth." "That noise is too loud. Help me." "I don't know how to calm myself. I'm upset. Please help." "I want the toy he has. What should I do?" Responsive caregiving, positive climate, and teacher sensitivity are things measured with the class program observation instruments. You may have heard of those as well. It's an alternate program observation instrument that measures quality. This one measures quality interactions. And we know that these things are vital to a child feeling as if they can explore and be inspired in their environment without negative consequences, such as getting hurt, etc. The classroom environment and materials we provide should be safe, but also encouraging and fun for the children. Thank you for attending the webinar. There's a link at the bottom here, 60 Inspiring Early Childhood Environment Ideas, where some of this has come from. Make sure that your classrooms are soft, warm, inviting, and that encourage exploration, and that aren't always just so sterile, but also not overwhelming and cluttered, that there's space for children to really grow and thrive. Thank you.